Interior design is all about contrast. In this video, I'll be sharing some tips on soft finishing for our home interior design. This may be a bit less common for Singapore homeowners, and many customers treat soft finishing as an afterthought for their design. They often thought to themselves, thinking that they will plan for soft finishing after they have moved in, and they will upgrade as they go along. There's no right or wrong, but at the end of the day, it's all about contrast. So after renovating their home, many still feels that their home is missing something, and the result, it looks okay, but not totally amazing as what we will see in the magazines or in the internet, Pinterest, Instagram. It does not look the same way as what the interior designer given the drawing to us. I've been in this industry for over 13 years, working with various experienced interior designers and architects, and myself going for upgradings over the years. In this video, I'll be sharing some of the countless hours that I've gone through on YouTube and browsing on Pinterest for ideas. My conclusion is actually creating that kind of wow effect isn't difficult at all. We just need to understand a few simple matching techniques, and the good thing is it does not even have to do a lot of renovation, and we do not need to consider how big our renovation budget is. Think about this as a fashion. So a designer outfit does not need to cost thousands of dollars to look good on a person. A $30 outfit can also be as good, if not better, than the $3,000 outfit that you buy from the branded shops. So maybe in today's video, let's take a look at living room as an example. We shall break down the most basic and fundamental principles so that we can make our home look stylish and high-end. So stay to the end. I'm sure what I'm sharing will be useful for you when you are doing your homes in the future. So the secret to a beautiful home that we find on Pinterest can be somehow in just one word, and that's contrast. Without contrast, there's no focus. So without focus, there's no sense of balance. In this universe, we always try to find a balance and a harmony in whatever things, and there are many kinds of contrast that we can play with. We can play with the weight contrast, we can play with the color contrast, the size, the shape, the height, the textures, the patterns, and lightings. So item number one in contrast will be the size. So the size of the furniture that we put in our homes represent how we play around with the harmony and balance of the whole house. It's just like the universe. It's all about finding the right balance and the right harmony and the size proportion. So to many of us, when we walk into the furniture store, we see a piece that we really like. But usually we will forget that the size of the showroom is big, the height is humongous, tall, and there's a lot of pieces of showpiece inside the showroom. So when we bring the exact piece back to our house, sometimes it will feel out of space. It looks awkward because our home's living room is not as huge as the one that we see in the showroom. And so just remember, the showroom piece are always much larger than our living room. We need to make sure that there's a 50 to 80 cms of walking space around the furniture so that you'll never feel cramped when you walk through past the coffee table. And if you're unsure whether a furniture piece fits into the area, you can put masking tape of a cardboard boxes to outline the furniture in your new house before you buy the furniture. Then this will give you a real sense of the scale and the proportion of the whole furniture inside your own home. So another thing to take note will be when all the furniture pieces are roughly the same height and bulk, the space might feel monotonous and too neat. So we can overcome this by having a different size of coffee table, or maybe an oversized lamp, and even a small tiny side table. This will make the whole area having a bit of contrast between small size and big size. And so we have just talked about the size contrast for furniture placement inside the living room. We can now go over to the color contrast. To a beautiful home that we find on Pinterest can be somehow in just one word, and that's contrast. Why? Because without contrast, there's no focus. So without focus, there's no sense of balance. In this universe, we always try to find a balance and a harmony in whatever things, and it's nature how we work. So when design an interior, there are many kinds of contrast that we can play with. We can play with the weight contrast, we can play with the color contrast, the size, the shape, the height, the textures, the patterns, and lightings. But we'll start with the most basic and the most important one, and that is the color contrast. Many homeowners end up with flat-looking results because they get stuck here, because there are millions of color combinations and sexy color names that we can choose from. And with too many choices, we humans tend to fall back on the familiar choices and not to make any choices anymore. As we humans are trained to be afraid of making mistakes, right? Especially us in Singapore. So we try to play it safe. We avoid dark colors because we are afraid that we will make the space look gloomy. And we avoid a bold color because we don't want to be seen as too loud and stand out from the crowd. So as a result, some modern homes are filled with beige color, the off-white and the light grey, which are considered the safer color. They are difficult to go wrong. And however, they rarely get stand out. But there's nothing wrong with them. These are just neutral tones, and I love them very much for the modern, minimalist, and the Japanese, Muji style or Scandinavian style. In fact, they are the top 3 popular choices in the modern Singapore family. But color by itself has no meaning. As what I learned, if we apply contrast to color, even a neutral space can look lively and sophisticated. So for example, in a beige white living room, consider adding different brighter tones such as navy blue or the forest green. This can instantly enhance the whole mood of the whole living room. Of course, the trick here is to add in sufficient quantity and how much we want to add. An easy way is to throw a few lightly bright color sofas a cushion on the sofa or hang a painting that has very vibrant color on the wall. But the result might not be what we always see on Pinterest or Instagram. Then the reason will be because this color pop up suddenly and isolated. They don't really connect with the rest of the space, and it makes them feel out of space. So if we place it randomly especially. But there's a simple way to fix this. We can simply ensure that the dominant home colors appear at least at 3 different places throughout the whole living room. Then this is an interior design principle that I read. It's about the 60, 30, and the 10% rule. So as the name suggests, 60% will be the dominant color, which we can apply in the larger surface like the walls, the carpet, the big furniture pieces. And for the secondary color, we suggest taking up half of the dominant color of the whole area. It can be applied to areas like the curtains and maybe some of the furnitures. And finally, the 10%, which we classify as accent color, the very bold and stand-out color, they can be applied to smaller areas such as the cushion, any vase, or maybe artwork. So when we mean 60%, we don't really mean hard and fast rules of 60% dominant color must take out the whole room. What they usually recommend was to repeat the dominant color throughout a space, so the whole area will feel connected and with different furnitures and different decoration pieces, making the whole area, like the living room, feel harmonious and cohesive. The key here is to have a luxury home, correct? So for example, if we have a blue painting, we pair with a blue color pillow or cushion, and maybe we add some elements of blue on the carpet. If we don't like carpets, we can add some blue ornaments or decorative pieces. So once that color appears at least 3 or 4 different places, our brain naturally feels that they looks cohesive and they looks to have intent. So now maybe I give an example of a negative example would be if we paint one accent wall, maybe behind the sofa to be a black color. So maybe I give another example. So we have a sofa, behind the sofa we have a feature wall, we paint it as the accent color of our whole area. So the whole piece of wall behind the sofa will stand out, right? But this is not what we paint the accent color on the wall behind the sofa. But if there's only one wall and this color don't appears in any like carpets or the coffee table or even the TV feature wall, this whole area will feel the whole feature wall will really stand out. But it looks out of place and there's no intent in making the whole area looks blend together. The wall will look disconnected and awkward, and it appears sudden and random. There's no consideration being planned on making the color consistent on the cushion or on the carpets or on the curtain. So when we pair with intent, the whole area will blend in nicely and our space will look harmonious and cohesive. And so to recap this session, if we want our home to look good, we must have contrast. And color is the easiest place to start and also the cheapest. So never let color appear alone. The dominant color or even the secondary color should appear about 2 to 3 times in the room. That way, everything will feel connected and harmonious. Now that we are done on part 1 of color contrast, let's look at second item on the list that I have to make your house look cohesive and luxurious. So the next one on my list will be height contrast. So a lot of us will focus only on the functional furniture like the sofa, the TV console, and the coffee table. So all like under 1.2 meters high. But if everything in our whole living room sits low, the space will feel quite flat and lifeless. Think about our life. If we want our life to feel monotonous or our life to feel have up and down, this is more like our life. And our eyes, naturally we rest well at about 1.6, 1.5 meter. So if our decor sits around that line, so if all our decor sits around 1.2 meter or 1.5 meter, the life will be, our brain will process it as this way. So if we give it a bit of life, it will feel this way. Our brain will interpret them as this way. And I think life will be much more adventurous and happening for all of us. So to fix this problem, we can decorate not just on the floor area, 1.2 meter. We can also decorate the upper and the middle area. If we hang an artwork, so the center of the artwork should be about 1.6 meter at our eye level. That's the artwork. And the second, if we place a floor lamp, so we can consider adding the floor lamp, having a height stationary about 1.5 meter. And if we place a tall plant, the tall plant can be maybe go up to 1.8 meter, taller than most of our Asian height. And consider if we use a pendant light, if you're using a pendant light for your dining table or your living room feature light, so use pendant lights or tall curtains, full height curtain I would say, or ceiling features to draw the eye upwards. Try to avoid hanging artwork or photos or picture frame right too high on the ceiling. Consider when you go to the museum, maybe in Singapore or overseas European museums, all the art piece will be hanging at the eye level of all, so we can enjoy the artwork at our eye level. We don't need to tip our head higher. And you really do avoid using a half height curtain. So if the window is just half height, make sure the curtain goes all the way to the floor. Not touching the floor, but about 1 or 2 inches above the floor. Do not stop the curtain halfway just because the window is halfway. It doesn't bring out the grandness of the whole room, I would say. And also half height with curtains make our whole ceiling looks lower. But when all these contrasts are done right, it adds a vertical rhythm. There's a rhythm and there's high and low. And our brain will feel that it's complete and in harmony. And the next one will be the material contrast. If you want our home to feel premium, so let's play with materials. Most homes use 1 or 2 finishing everywhere, like the wood, fabric, and maybe some metal. But high-end interiors usually feature a material contrast. Maybe for example, we can mix leather with normal linen, or we can add a rug made of natural fiber or cotton. Pair it with glass or metal essence with ceramic deco or textured cushion. We don't need to feel overwhelmed by the space, but to just make sure that the different surfaces talk to one another. It's really finding the balance between the soft and the hard, and the matte and the glossy, or the smooth surface and the rough surface, that give each space a character of their own. Try not to make the mistake of buying all the furniture from one brand or from one matching finish. When everything looks identical or same model, it becomes quite monotonous and visually it's quite flat. So you can consider mixing different material instantly to make our space feel curated and alive. And the next one will be just talking about lights. To me, lights feels the most important to make the whole area cozy and modern. And I find that lighting is probably the most cost-effective way to elevate our space to make it luxurious. Most homes rely on a single source of lighting, that is the ceiling light. This is the fastest way to make a room look flat. So instead, we can maybe layer, just like the ladies when they cut their hair, they have a different layering. So ceiling light can be used for general illuminations, the ceiling light that we put on the ceiling. And pendant light can be used for focus, a focal point of the dining area, because the pendant light is usually at our eye level. Next, the spotlight. Spotlight can be used to illuminate the wall on the wall painting to make the picture stand out. And last but not least, the table or the floor lamps. They create a very cozy kind of mood, something to make the whole area looks layered. From the ceiling to the focal point of the pendant light to the floor lamp, standing lamp you can call it, as well as the concealed LED strip that you see all around in your cabinets, in your ceiling, alcove ceiling, that give a different level of layering for the lighting. And the mix of lighting level creates a different depth, warmth and flexibility. However, there's one rule that I think is important for all of us to remember, is to keep our light temperature consistent. The mismatched color temperature, when you use like cool white, some area you use warm white, you'll cheapen the looks and the look is gone. So lighting is not just about illuminating the space. It helps us to create the ambience that we want in our living room. So, conclusion, why does contrast make things look good? Because contrast creates rhythm and layering. Just like how the music needs the verse, the lyrics, the chorus, or when a movie needs a build-up and a climax. So without contrast, there's really no story plot in our space or our life. And we need the bad guys so that the good guys can stand out, right? We need to have thieves so that the police can be the police. And that is how our home needs to be. We need to have contrast, the rough texture and the smooth texture, the ceiling light, the pendant light, and the floor lamp. And since we have made this far, I hope you can give me a like and subscribe to this channel, and I'll be discussing on some of the other videos. And if you like this video, maybe you can consider looking at other video here that I discuss about how to make your area